Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. And Ms. Tanden, again, thank you for taking time to speak with me last week. We had the opportunity to go over a number of different issues, including a bunch of policy issues. Let me focus today at the outset on the issue that many of my Republican colleagues have raised with me. As we've discussed, OMB director has to be able to work with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. This is true with cabinet officials generally, but specifically with OMB, because you have so many interactions with them, both on the budget and on the oversight responsibilities. And typically, the OMB director is not a partisan in particular, because you have to have these kinds of relationships. I believe that the tone, the content, and the aggressive partisanship of some of your public statements have added to the troubling trend of more incivility and division in our public life. And in your case, I'm concerned that your personal attacks about specific senators will make it more difficult for you to work with them. Just to mention a few of the thousands of negative public statements, you wrote that Susan Collins is, quote, the worst, that Tom Cotton is a fraud, that vampires have more heart than Ted Cruz. You called Leader McConnell Moscow Mitch and Voldemort, and on and on. I wonder specifically, how do you plan to mend fences and build relationships with members of Congress you have attacked through your public statements?
Senator, I very much appreciate that question. I recognize the concern. I deeply regret and apologize for my language and some of my past language. I recognize that this role is a bipartisan role, and I know I have to earn the trust of senators across the board. I will work very aggressively to meet that concern. I know the last 4 years or last few years have been pretty polarizing, and I hope that we can work to address the country's challenges in a bipartisan and nonpartisan manner. I appreciate that it's upon me to prove that to this committee and to members, and I will work as hard to address the concerns of Republican senators as Democratic senators, and will be accountable. I want the OMB to be accountable to Congress and work effectively with you.
There are media reports that during November of 2020, after the election, so late last year, more than 1,000 tweets were deleted from your account. Some of these public statements have been tweets. Are these media reports that you deleted more than 1,000 tweets in November in advance of your nomination accurate? And if so, why did you delete them?
Senator, I appreciate people's concerns about my tweets, and I've regretted them. And I deleted tweets because I regretted my tone, and I've deleted tweets over many months. But for those concerned about my rhetoric and my language, you know, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for any hurt that they've caused.
So you did delete the tweets. Did you delete them because you believe you might be nominated for this job or another job?
I deleted tweets over many months because I regretted the tone of my tweets.
Okay, but specifically after the election, you deleted 1,000 tweets according to media reports. I take it from what you're saying today, that's accurate? Is that true?
I don't actually know, but I can completely concede the point.
Okay. And I guess the question is, you know, is that the right thing to do to go back and try to cover what you had said, given that you might be in a different position, which would be a nomination for a cabinet level job? With the removal of more than 1,000 tweets, there's still a lot of harsh partisan tweets on your account. I found through my staff, there are still 9 pages of tweets about Senator Ted Cruz, for example. How did you choose which tweets you wanted to delete and which ones you wanted to keep on your account?
Senator, I mean, I just thought of some of my language and deleted my tweets, but I would also just say again that to the extent people are hurt by my language, I deeply apologize.
Okay, well, let's move on. Talk about regulatory reform for a moment. We got to talk about this quite a bit on our call, and as you know, the Regulatory Accountability Act has been bipartisan legislation in the past that we've tried to promote as a way to create more jobs and to provide some relief, particularly for smaller businesses. When you were president of the Center for American Progress, you called the Regulatory Accountability Act, quote, a license to kill, among other harsh characterizations. Again, a number of public statements. Can you talk about that? Why did you think that this legislation, which again, when you made that statement at the time, we had Democrats and Republicans on board. Do you still hold those views, and why did you say that?
Senator, I believe a senior fellow at CAP used that language. I personally did not use that language. I am the CEO of the Center for American Progress, so I am responsible for what it puts forth, but I did not call it, I did not use that language. So I would say on the issue of regulatory reform, we want to get the balance right. Regulations do need to address the public welfare, but they also, we should continue to use cost-benefit analysis, and I look forward to working with you on regulatory reform and other issues and on concerns around regulations that you may have.
And cost-benefit analysis, as you know, is the core of RAA. It also deals with independent agencies. Do you think independent agencies should be more accountable to OMB and to OIRA?
Well, I think the relationship between the Office of Management and Budget and the Executive Office of the President and independent agencies is a different one from other agencies. So I appreciate the concerns raised about the regulatory process with independent agencies, but I do want to recognize that independent agencies are independent for reasons, and we have to try to get that balance right between the independent nature of those agencies and the rules and regulations that they are putting forward.
Yeah, increasingly regulations are coming from these independent agencies that affect jobs and the economy. And the question is, do you think independent agencies should be subject to a cost-benefit analysis?
Well, I think cost-benefit analysis is critical for the rulemaking process, and EO 128066 is a still very important rule or a executive order, and so the question really is, one question, not the only question, but a question is whether OMB should be implementing cost-benefit analysis with the independent agencies, but that doesn't take away the importance of cost-benefit analysis for rulemaking.
I'm over my time. I'll be back in the second round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.